section is called Promoting Academic Literacy in K-8 Classroom. It covers pages 124 to 132 in our text. As I was reviewing this section, I thought to myself, how exactly do we accomplish this goal? The textbook does a good job of outlining our area where to begin. First, it differentiates the difference between social and academic language. Social language are things such as questions that an ELL student quickly learns to ask, such as, can I go to the bathroom? These types of learnings happen quickly, not as quickly as the next type of question or comment, such as, Bilal is my friend, a personal statement. Lastly, they learn about emotional statements, and that happens very quickly. Bilal is now bugging me. Academic language differs in that it doesn't have common place in our schools. Words such as analyze, interpret, classify, and give examples of are just some examples that we use in our classrooms every day. To make this even more confusing for an ELL student, each subject has different specific words that it uses within its context. Science, social science, and mathematics have different types of learnings that use different words and strategies in order to teach. This is all very complicated for an ELL student. Pages 129 to 131 do a good job of reviewing some of those strategies that we use in our classroom and may need to be altered in order for us to accommodate our ELL students. Take a few moments, draw from your own expertise, and review these charts. Pause the video and meet us back here as soon as you've gotten comfortable with them. Welcome back. Hopefully your review went well. In that, you might have found that the first thing that the charts discussed was text and talk. Creatures of habits are teachers. We like to put the text on the board and talk, but many of us have moved past that. Features of talking was the next thing that the chart discussed. Subject-specific words that we use in our classrooms are very problematic for ELL learners. The next thing that we discussed was words that used in different contexts. So, for example, we might use a word in one way in English, but it's used very differently in science. Cognates was another area, words that sound the same in English and of ELL speakers' native language. Number 6 was phrases with specific meanings. Number 7 was the discussion of transition words. Number 8 was common communicative functions that we use in our classroom. And the last one was helpful reading and writing strategies that we should review with our ELL students. From all of this came a chart inside the book that gave us helpful suggestions for teaching academic language. And they come obviously from the authors of this book. The first example that they gave us is the idea of pre-teaching very difficult concepts or the big ideas. Many times students don't have a concept of what this topic is, and when you pre-teach the big ideas, they follow along much better. So for example, in my science class, I usually start off with a lab to give students an idea of give students an idea of the big picture. Number 2 is if there are certain cognates, I help students learn how to recognize them. So in my science class, I had a Spanish speaker who made this connection in my class, and it was just a great learning experience for both of us. Number 3 was try to teach the grammar that might come up in this chapter. So if you know that things need to be done in past tense, which often happen, you want to make sure that you teach your students past tense and how it's going to be used. Just give them a little bit of a heads up anyway. Number 4, one of the things that they suggest to do is to make sure that you teach communication goals to your students. So for example, you might want to let students know that they will need a certain labeling skill for the microscope. So you can say you will learn how to label microscopes. But for more proficient learners, you might say you might need to be able to tell the functions of the different parts of the microscope. Number 5 was make sure you focus on reading and writing strategies that you know the students will need. So Again, this is a great example in science in terms of labs. You know that you will be reading in the passive voice or writing in passive voice, I should say, when you're writing labs. And so reviewing this with the students can't hurt. Number 6 was work on simplifying text in your own tongue. So if you know that you use a lot of metaphors or you use a lot of similes, make sure you review these with your ELL students. Take time to slow down in your own teaching and look for the reactions in students and check in with them every now and then. The 7th strategy or suggestion that was given was number 7, helping students by reviewing key points. So for example, in my science class, I have word walls or science dictionaries, and every now and then I'll stop to identify this for our students. Number 8, identify types of text structures that will be appearing that students need to work with. So if they're going to be dealing with a Venn diagram or possibly a picture, you want to teach them how to manipulate these. Many textbooks do a good job of explaining how to deal with different types of graphics, and you might want to go through the textbook with your students. Number 9, teach students to identify common transition words that occur in a particular text and help them learn how to use and understand these words. For example, in my science class, finally and therefore is very common, and I often start the lesson by teaching them common words that will show up. Number 10 is give students models and guided writing in order to help them out. For example, most of my work involves closed statements in the beginning and also the use of word boxes. So given these suggestions, hopefully your job as an ELL teacher will be a little bit easier. We want to thank